told you that a glossy, incredibly popular network television show about the devil running a high-end nightclub in Los Angeles is secretly one of the most accurate adaptations of forbidden 2,000-year-old heretical texts?
It sounds utterly ridiculous on its face.
Yeah.
You look at the promotional posters for the series Lucifer,
Oh, yeah, the tailored suits and everything.
right? The tailored suits, the sports cars, the smoldering looks. And
Yeah.
you expect a lightweight, formulaic police procedural.
Exactly. You expect the standard recipe, like a dead body in the first 5 minutes, some witty banter over the yellow police tape, a couple of red herrings, and then by minute 42, the bad guy is in cuffs.
We inherently know how to watch these shows.
Yeah, we really don't have to think. But if you actually strip away the Hollywood gloss, the neon lights, the pop music soundtrack, this show is operating on a completely different mind-bending frequency.
It truly is. It is genuinely functioning as a modern allegory for ancient Gnosticism and the deepest, most complex theories of Carl Jung's analytical psychology.
Which is wild.
It is. It's mapping out the human soul's great escape from a rigged material universe.
And that is our mission for you, the listener, today. We are taking a deep dive into the characters of Lucifer. We're going to look at the 6-season run through the lens of Carl Jung's writings on the Book of Job, the Gospel of Mary of Magdala, and the Gospel of Philip.
It's a heavy stack of sources for a cop show.
Right. But before we can even touch the LAPD, we have to understand the universe they're operating in. We have to understand the Gnostic framework. So let's unpack this. What exactly is Gnosticism, and why does it flip the script on everything we think we know about heaven and hell?
Well, to put it simply, Gnosticism was a diverse set of ancient religious philosophies, and many of them were aggressively labeled heretical by the early Orthodox Christian Church and essentially buried.
Just completely wiped out.
Basically, yeah. And here is the core divergence. In traditional Western theology, the material universe is a beautiful garden created by a loving, omnipotent Father. But in the Gnostic worldview, this physical universe is a flawed, broken prison. And the creator of this prison isn't the ultimate true God.
Wait, really?
Yeah. It's a lesser, sometimes arrogant, middle management architect known as the Demiurge.
Okay, so the Demiurge is like a rogue programmer who built a really glitchy, miserable video game and trapped us all inside it.
That is a perfect modern translation. Meanwhile, the true, ultimate divine source, the pure light, is entirely distant and separate from this physical universe.
Like completely outside the game.
Exactly. The Gnostics called this ultimate reality the monad, or the pleroma, which roughly translates to the fullness.
The fullness, okay.
And the grand tragedy of the human condition is that we possess a divine spark, a literal microscopic fragment of that true ultimate light. But it's trapped inside these heavy, decaying physical bodies, locked within the Demiurge's rigged game.
And the game is guarded by bouncers, right? These entities called archons.
Yes, the archons are the uncompromising enforcers of the material prison.
Like the prison guards.
Right. Their entire job is to keep you distracted, keep you following the rules, and keep you ignorant of your own divine nature.
So they just want you to punch the clock and not ask questions.
Basically. Therefore, the ultimate goal of a human life isn't just to be a good person and follow the Demiurge's arbitrary laws. The goal is gnosis.
Which means what, exactly?
It translates to direct, internal, experiential knowledge of your own divine spark.
Ah.
Gnosis is waking up in the matrix. It's the realization that allows you to bypass the archons and escape the prison.
So if we apply this Gnostic lens to the cosmic hierarchy of Lucifer, the entire theology of the show clicks into place. Let's start at the top. In the show, God is not the perfect, loving father.
No, not at all.
He is explicitly the Gnostic demiurge. He starts off as this incredibly distant, cryptic, and controlling architect who seems to delight in pre-writing everyone's story and just watching them scramble.
And then you have his exiled wife, Charlotte Richards, the goddess.
Right.
She is entirely separate from the creation of humanity, and she maps perfectly onto the concept of the monad, the mother of all creation.
Which reframes the protagonist entirely. I mean, if God is the flawed demiurge who built a rigged maze, then Lucifer Morningstar is not the ultimate cosmic evil.
No, he isn't. Lucifer becomes the Gnostic logos or the rebel spirit.
Because he realizes the game is rigged.
He is the very first entity to see the bars of the cage. His rebellion, the war in heaven that got him cast into hell, isn't portrayed in the show as petulant teenage angst.
Which is how it's usually spun.
Right. But here, It is a fundamental metaphysical rejection of the demiurge's material rules. He refuses to play a game where free will is an illusion.
Oh man, this completely explains his catchphrase.
He does.
Because throughout the entire series, Lucifer uses his celestial mojo to look deeply into people's eyes, and his voice drops and he asks them, "What is it you truly desire?" And on the surface, it's just a fun parlor trick to get suspects to confess that they, wanted to embezzle money or sleep with their boss. But metaphysically, he is actively bringing gnosis to humanity.
He is actively disrupting the archonic system.
Wow.
Because the demiurge and the archons want humans to care about laws, social status, and societal expectations.
Superficial stuff.
Exactly. By forcing humans to voice their deepest, most buried internal desires, Lucifer is urging them to bypass the external rules and locate their internal spark. He is trying to wake them up.
But his own awakening is incredibly messy, and this is where Carl Jung comes into the picture.
Oh, Jung is vital here.
Because when you read Jung's actual letters and his deeply weird mystical writings, specifically the Seven Sermons to the Dead, he talks about this entity called Abraxas.
Yes.
Jung was fascinated by Gnostic texts, and his concept of Abraxas is terrifying. It's a god figure that unites the Christian concept of God with Satan.
Right, it's a unification.
Abraxas is life itself, completely indefinite. It's the mother of good and evil simultaneously. It represents the awe-inspiring, overwhelming totality of existence. It refuses to be cleanly divided into a good heaven and a bad hell.
And that terrifying totality is precisely what Lucifer is struggling to integrate within himself for the first 3 seasons of the show.
That tension's just killing him.
It really is. His entire psychological journey is about uniting his two halves. On one hand, he has his devil face, this scorched, monstrous, terrifying visage that represents the absolute chaos and wrath of the universe.
Right.
On the other hand, he has pristine, glowing, white angel wings.
And he hates the wings. In season 3, there's this visceral, recurring motif where Lucifer is desperately, bloodily cutting off his own angel wings.
It's super dark.
It is. He wants to define himself solely as the rebellious devil to spite his father. He wants the binary. He wants to say, "You are the good God, so I will be the evil devil."
But he can't.
No, because no matter how many times he mutilates himself, the wings instantly grow back. What is the actual mechanic happening there? Why won't his body let him just be the monster?
Because in Gnosticism, those wings represent his pneuma, his pure, unstoppable divine essence.
His pneuma.
Right. The material world, the demiurge's prison, loves binaries, good and evil, light and dark. Lucifer is trying to force his infinite complex spirit into a simple material binary of, I am the bad guy.
Because it's easier to process.
Exactly. But the pneuma cannot be destroyed. He cannot self-mutilate his spirit to fit a false identity. The wings growing back is the ultimate truth of his divine spark rebelling against the lie of his self-imposed monstrousness.
He is Abraxas.
Yes. He must be both.
Now, while the rebel spirit is having this massive identity crisis, the demiurge is also going through something unprecedented. This is one of my favorite elements of the show. God doesn't stay a booming voice from the clouds.
No, he doesn't.
In season 5, the creator literally comes down to Earth and inhabits a human body. He experiences the extreme, crushing limitation of matter.
It's a huge shift.
There's this brilliantly awkward episode, The Family Dinner, where the almighty, all-knowing architect of the universe is reduced to sitting at a dining room table, awkwardly trying to get his kids to stop fighting and complaining that the chicken is a tad dry.
I mean, that scene is the ultimate reduction of the infinite into the finite. In traditional theology, God is immutable, unchanging.
Right, he's perfect.
But the Gnostic demiurge is flawed, which means he has the capacity to learn.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the learning curve here is incredibly steep. It culminates in a moment that is metaphysically shocking for every celestial character in the room.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
God, in his human form, gets into a scuffle with a random human drug dealer, and the human physically flaps the creator of the universe across the face.
Lucifer is completely stunned, and it's not just because someone hit his dad. You can see his entire worldview just short-circuiting.
Because he realizes the absolute has become vulnerable.
Yeah.
The unfeeling mask of the demiurge has been shattered. The slap humanizes the whole.
There is a fascinating parallel in ancient Christian lore that explains the mechanics of this beautifully. It's the myth of Mary Magdalene and the red egg.
Oh, this is a great comparison.
The tradition holds that Mary Magdalene went before the Roman Emperor Tiberius to explain the concept of the resurrection, and the emperor scoffed, saying a human rising from the dead was as impossible as the plain white egg on his table turning red.
And then what happens?
Mary picked up the egg, and it miraculously turned blood red, symbolizing life-conquering death.
If we map that metaphor onto God's evolution in the show, his omnipotent, untouchable nature is the sterile, perfect, white shell of the egg.
Untouchable but sterile.
Right. It is pristine, but it is cold and distant.
Mm.
By coming to Earth, by allowing himself to be slapped, to bleed, to taste dried chicken, to feel the pain of his children, he cracks that sterile shell.
He turns red.
Yes. He becomes a vulnerable, feeling entity. He proves to himself and to Lucifer that genuine relationship and vulnerability are actually more powerful than rigid cosmic law.
And the result of that is staggering. Once he achieves this self-awareness, this gnosis of his own flaws, he doesn't go back to ruling the universe.
No, he retires.
He retires. He literally migrates entirely out of the universe into the pleroma with his wife, leaving the entire cosmos in Lucifer's hands.
It's the ultimate abdication.
But wait, hold on. Let me play devil's advocate here. No pun intended. If Lucifer is this grand whistleblower, this heroic logos trying to wake humanity up,
Yeah.
why the hell did he spend eons literally torturing people in hell? I mean, doesn't running the ultimate torture chamber make him entirely complicit in the demiurge's cruel system?
That's a very fair question.
Right, because if he hates the rigged game, why was he the warden of its worst dungeon?
That is the paradox that haunts Lucifer, and it's where the show introduces its most brilliant theological twist. You have to understand the architecture of hell in the Lucifer universe.
Okay, lay it out for us.
It isn't a burning lake of fire built by an angry god to punish sinners. Hell is a self-imposed cell.
Which blew my mind the first time I realized it. The doors to the cells aren't locked.
Exactly. There are no archons barring the exits.
Crazy.
The souls in hell are trapped there strictly by their own human guilt. They are stuck in endless, agonizing time loops, replaying their worst, most shameful moments over and over again, simply because, on a subconscious level, they believe they deserve to be punished.
I want the listener to really think about this for a second. Think about the guilt loops you put yourself through at 3 a.m.
We all have them.
When you're staring at the ceiling, replaying a mistake you made 5 years ago, beating yourself up over and over. The show is arguing that this is the actual mechanic of hell. It's just the 3 a.m. guilt loop stretched out into eternity.
And how does Lucifer fit into this?
Yeah, why is he there?
He wasn't appointed the Punisher by divine mandate. He was just the lead loop.
The lead loop.
He stayed in hell, acting out the role of the terrifying torturer, because deep down he believed his father's narrative. He believed he was a monster.
So he was brainwashed by the demiurge?
Essentially, yes. He internalized the demiurge's judgment. So he projected his own immense self-hate and feelings of rejection onto the human souls around him. He was as trapped by the illusion of guilt as any human in those cells.
Which means he desperately needs a wake-up call. I mean, if the rebel spirit is locked in his own self-loathing, he can't break out of his own loop in a vacuum.
Right. He needs outside help.
He needs a catalyst. And this brings us out of the divine realm, out of the cosmic philosophy, and straight down into the gritty, street-level reality of the Los Angeles Police Department.
To a very specific person.
Specifically to homicide detective Chloe Decker.
Chloe is the linchpin of the entire narrative. If we look at the deep dive character analyses in our material, Chloe operates perfectly as the Gnostic figure of Sophia, or epinoia.
Which translates to divine thought or luminous wisdom.
Correct. In Gnostic myth, Sophia is a deeply complex figure. She is often the feminine emanation of the divine.
Like a piece of the ultimate truth.
Exactly. A piece of the ultimate truth that descends into the chaos of the material world, specifically to help awaken the trapped spiritual sparks of humanity.
And Chloe's origin is explicitly, literally divine. In the show, we find out she isn't just a regular person. She is a gift placed directly in Lucifer's path.
A literal miracle.
Yeah. Decades before the show starts, God sends Amenadiel down to Earth to bless a couple who couldn't have children, and the result of that miracle is Chloe. Because of this divine origin, she's the only human on Earth completely immune to Lucifer's celestial charms.
It just bounces right off her.
It does. When he leans in and does his mojo asking, "What is it you truly desire?" she just looks at him like he's an idiot. Nothing happens. She is the variable that fundamentally breaks the mechanics of the Demiurge's machine.
To understand the dynamic between Lucifer and Chloe, we have to look at the Gospel of Mary of Magdala.
Okay, let's look at that.
In that ancient text, there is a profound moment after the crucifixion. The male disciples, specifically Peter and Andrew, are terrified. They are trapped by the rules of the material world. They are afraid of the Roman authorities, afraid they will be crucified next. When Mary Magdalene tries to share her internal spiritual visions of Christ with them, they dismiss her.
Why do they dismiss her?
They dismiss her because she is a woman, and her teachings don't align with traditional rigid laws.
But Mary doesn't back down.
No, because Mary possesses an inherent, direct connection to the truth that bypasses those material fears. She has internal vision.
She sees past the illusion.
Right. She steps in to comfort the terrified men, stabilizing them with her luminous wisdom. This perfectly mirrors the mechanic of Chloe stabilizing Lucifer.
I see the connection now.
Lucifer is absolutely terrified of his own monstrous nature. He is trapped by the rules of his father's universe. Chloe, through her inherent grounded wisdom, her Sophia nature anchors him. She isn't afraid of the devil.
Jung has a fascinating take on this kind of figure. He writes about the apocalyptic vision in the book of Revelation of the woman clothed with the sun.
That's a very powerful image.
And what I find so compelling is that Jung points out she is described simply as an ordinary woman. She's not an eternal virgin goddess on a pedestal. She's not this untouchable deity. She is the anima mundi, the soul of the world. Her cosmic job is to reconcile nature with spirit.
Which is why Chloe represents the lower Sophia.
Lower meaning on earth.
Yes. Sophia didn't stay safely in the pristine, abstract heavens. She descended. Chloe is an ordinary, working-class homicide detective. She stays in the absolute gritty trenches of Los Angeles.
Right in the mud.
Exactly. She deals with blood, murder, lies, and the sheer exhausting ugliness of the material world. She's trying to fix the broken system from the inside out, rather than fleeing back to the pleroma. And in her relationship with Lucifer, she acts as a mirror.
I want to focus on that mirror mechanic because she doesn't just wave a magic wand and, fixes thousands of years of trauma.
Far from it.
She actually makes his life incredibly difficult and dangerous.
She makes him physically and emotionally vulnerable. In the early seasons, whenever Chloe is physically near Lucifer, his celestial invulnerability vanishes.
It's such a great detail.
If he gets shot while she's in the room, he bleeds. If he gets cut, it leaves a scar. It is a brilliant, tangible metaphor. Only when the spirit Lucifer comes into direct contact with wisdom Chloe can he actually experience the consequences of the material world.
So he actually has to feel things.
He feels pain, he feels mortality, and therefore he is finally capable of growth.
Okay, but I have to step in here because if I'm listening to this, a massive red flag just went up.
Oh.
Let's look at the mechanics of this miracle. If God literally manufactured Chloe's existence, if he blessed her parents specifically so she would be born to be a bespoke therapy animal for the devil.
That's one way to put it.
Isn't that just celestial stalking? I mean, where is her free will? If her entire personality, her career path, her placement in Los Angeles is a rigged setup by the demiurge, doesn't that completely undermine the concept of her being this liberating figure of wisdom?
You've hit on the core existential crisis of the entire series. When Chloe discovers that she was quite literally made for Lucifer, she absolutely spirals.
I mean, wouldn't you?
I absolutely would. She feels like a puppet. But what's fascinating is how she ultimately resolves this. Her response is the ultimate Gnostic victory.
Because she hacks the system.
Precisely. Yes, the system is rigged.
Wow.
The demiurge absolutely stacked the deck to force these two entities together.
Right.
But Chloe takes that predestined blueprint and she hijacks the code. She exercises her free will by choosing to love Lucifer despite knowing she was engineered to cross his path.
Oh, wow.
She looks at the architect's grand design and she injects genuine unscripted human love into it. By doing so, she turns a predestined script into a free choice of the soul. She uses her status as the variable to force the devil to look at his own trauma and become a healer.
It's like finding out you're an NPC in a video game, but instead of unplugging the console, you rewrite your own source code to turn the boss monster into a hero.
That is a very apt modern analogy. She subverts the intent of the creator by mastering the creation.
Now, while Chloe represents this pure, almost unshakable divine wisdom, it's important to acknowledge that most of us listening right now do not start out that way.
No, definitely not.
We aren't born as literal immune miracles. So if we want to see how a regular, deeply flawed, average human navigates this Gnostic prison of a universe, we have to look at Chloe's ex-husband, Detective Dan Espinosa.
Dan is perhaps the most painfully relatable character in the entire series when viewed through this philosophical lens.
Oh, poor Dan.
In Gnostic categorization, humanity is generally divided into three states of being, and Dan represents the psychic man, utilizing the original Greek philosophical term psychikos.
Let's translate those three states for everyone.
Certainly. First, you have the halics. These are individuals entirely consumed by material-based desires. They are purely flesh-driven.
Just totally selfish.
Right. In the show, this is represented by corrupt, purely selfish characters, like the crooked cop Malcolm, who will murder anyone just to survive another day.
Okay, got it.
On the opposite end, you have the pneumatics, the spirit-filled individuals, naturally drawn to the light and truth, which we'll discuss later.
And Dan is neither.
Exactly. Dan is stuck right in the muddy, confused middle, the Sice goes. He isn't inherently evil or malicious, but he isn't inherently enlightened either. He is just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Because he lacks deep internal gnosis, he relies desperately on the demiurge's external rules to make sense of a chaotic world. He clings to the police code, social norms, hierarchy, and his reputation.
And he also clings very famously to his pudding.
He really does love his pudding.
Dan is absolutely obsessed with this specific brand of pudding he keeps in the precinct fridge. It's a running gag in the show. Lucifer constantly steals it just to infuriate Dan. But if we dig into the philosophy, this isn't just a sitcom joke. This is the pudding paradox.
It sounds absurd, but it is deeply theological.
I love this part.
If you read the Apocryphon of John, a classic Gnostic text, it details how the archons, the wardens of the material prison, create constant petty distractions to keep the divine spark asleep in humanity.
Distraction.
They lull us into a trance of mundane worries so we don't look up at the cosmic reality. Dan's pudding represents the counterfeit spirit.
The counterfeit spirit, meaning it's a fake version of fulfillment.
Exactly. It symbolizes the small, trivial material comforts we desperately cling to in order to numb ourselves.
So true.
We obsess over our morning coffee routine or getting a specific parking spot, or in Dan's case, a plastic cup of pudding, to avoid facing the terrifying, overwhelming reality of our own guilt, our mortality, and our eternal nature.
I love this concept because the pudding is basically modern doom scrolling.
It totally is.
It's the late-night snack when you're stressed. It's the obsession with getting the corner office. It's the trivial arguments we pick with strangers on social media about movies. We use all of this noise to numb ourselves to the absolute terror that we are eternal beings trapped in meat suits, hurtling through a cold void.
And Lucifer, acting as the Gnostic awakener, targets this exact attachment.
He goes right for the pudding.
He knows Dan is asleep, clinging to the counterfeit spirit. This brings us to what might be the masterpiece of the series, is Season 5 episode, Naked and Afraid.
Oh my God. It is the most stressful episode of television I have ever watched.
That's intense.
Lucifer essentially constructs an impossibly convoluted, highly dangerous, and deeply humiliating series of pranks. Dan wakes up naked in the desert, gets involved with Russian mobsters, believes he's been poisoned, gets caught in a gang war, and thinks he has to murder someone to survive.
It's a complete nightmare.
But I have to ask, is Lucifer just being a vindictive, bullying jerk here? Because Dan suffers immensely in this episode. What is the actual pedagogical purpose of putting a man through that level of psychological torture?
The purpose is entirely pedagogical. This elaborate prank perfectly mirrors the labyrinth of the archons. Lucifer's playing the role of the ultimate provocateur,
Pushing his buttons.
systematically, ruthlessly shattering Dan's illusion of control. Dan fundamentally believes that if he just follows the police rules, if he just plays the earthly game right, he can manage the chaos of life and keep himself safe.
But he can't.
No. Lucifer forces Dan into a situation where the earthly rules absolutely do not apply. He strips away Dan's badge, his clothes, his dignity, and his logic. His ego is completely annihilated.
And then what happens?
By the end of the ordeal, when the curtain is pulled back and Dan realizes it was all a manipulation, he is physically battered and emotionally exhausted. But crucially, he starts laughing.
It's this hysterical, unhinged laughter.
Gnostics call that the laughter of the redeemed.
I love that phrase.
In that moment, Dan finally realizes that the material world is inherently malleable, completely absurd, and entirely out of his control. He realizes how foolish he was to place his faith in rules and pudding. Lucifer forces Dan to shed his false ego so he can actually begin to grow.
Lucifer shows him that the only thing Dan actually possesses, the only thing he can truly control, is his internal reaction to the chaos.
Which is true for all of us.
Which becomes absolutely vital because Dan's journey doesn't end on a laugh track. Dan tragically dies in the line of duty. And despite trying to be a good man, he goes to hell.
It is heartbreaking.
But as we established earlier regarding the mechanics of hell, he doesn't go there because the demiurge judged his soul and found him wanting.
No, not at all. He goes to hell because of his own unresolved guilt. Specifically, his guilt over being a corrupt cop in his past and his belief that he failed his daughter.
Those self-imposed loops again.
Exactly. His journey through the afterlife is the ultimate proof of the show's Gnostic thesis. Dan doesn't eventually reach heaven by following more rules or by begging for forgiveness from an angry God.
He escapes his hell loop through internal gnosis.
Precisely. He has to sit with his own soul. He has to confront his deepest, ugliest flaws, acknowledge them, and genuinely forgive himself. He has to realize he is worthy of the light.
That's powerful.
Dan is the ultimate human success story in this narrative. He levels up from a compromised, anxious, psychicos, lost in the material world, to a self-actualized resident of the pleroma, entirely through his own internal realization. He frees himself.
But escaping the demiurge's labyrinth isn't something the soul can easily do in a vacuum. I mean, Dan needed Lucifer's push. We all need help.
We do.
You need guides to help interpret the psychological chaos, and you need beacons of natural light just to prove that the darkness hasn't completely consumed the universe. Which brings us to two of the most vital supporting characters, Dr. Linda Martin and forensic scientist Ella Lopez.
Yes. Let's start with Dr. Linda Martin. In mythological terms, she is the classic psychopomp.
Like Hermes in Greek mythology, or the Grim Reaper, the entity that guides dead souls to the underworld.
Yes, but Linda operates as a psychopomp in the realm of the mind.
As a therapist.
Exactly. As a therapist, she guides celestial beings, demons, and humans alike through the treacherous darkness of their own psychological underworlds. But she doesn't start out with cosmic knowledge.
No, she has to earn it.
And her path to gaining this gnosis is absolutely brutal.
If we look at the ancient texts, there's a specific concept that maps perfectly onto her trauma.
The Gospel of Philip.
Right.
It differentiates between two types of awakening. There is a normal baptism of water, which is seen as a preliminary, almost surface-level cleansing. And then there is the terrifying baptism of fire. Linda experiences the baptism of fire.
This happens in season 2. Up until this point, Linda thinks Lucifer is just a deeply delusional human who uses biblical metaphors to cope with a bad childhood.
She thinks it's all a metaphor.
And then he decides to prove it. He peels back his handsome human face, and he shows her his true, raw double face.
The raw, unfiltered reality of the divine and the demonic is violently thrust upon her completely unprotected human mind.
The scene is haunting. She doesn't scream, she just freezes.
Total shock.
She goes entirely catatonic for days. She sits in her office, staring blankly, unable to process the scale of reality.
Because she is faced with an impossible choice. When a mortal mind gazes upon the unfathomable, the infinite, it usually shatters.
Right.
She can retreat into insanity, which is the fate of many who encounter the raw divine without preparation. Or she can do the incredibly painful work of expanding her mind to integrate this terrifying truth into her worldview.
She chooses integration. She pushes through the terror. And by doing so, she fundamentally evolves. She becomes what some analyses term the mother of the integrated universe.
That's a profound title.
It is. She eventually has a baby with the angel Amenadelphi, a half-angel, half-human child named Charlie. She literally bridges the gap between the fleshy, mortal, material world and the eternal celestial realm.
And what is truly remarkable about Linda's evolution is her methodology. Even after knowing for an absolute fact that God, the devil, and angels are real, she doesn't become a zealot.
She doesn't start preaching.
Exactly. She doesn't start dispensing divine law or writing a new Bible.
She keeps using therapy. She uses the Socratic method. She just keeps asking these ancient, incredibly powerful celestial beings questions, forcing them to find the answers within themselves.
Which is the literal definition of discovering gnosis.
Yeah.
She understands that true salvation cannot be handed down from above on a stone tablet. It must be unearthed from within the individual's own mind.
On the completely opposite end of the spiritual spectrum, we have Ella Lopez. Ella doesn't need a baptism of fire. She doesn't need to be shattered to understand the light.
Not at all.
According to the character Deep Dives, she represents Zoe, which is the Greek word for life. She is the pneumatic human.
The spirit-filled individual we mentioned earlier?
Yes, she just naturally, effortlessly radiates light and positivity. As Zoe, Ella is the incorruptible spark.
And the show tests her nature repeatedly to prove this.
Big time.
She goes through what fans call her dark arc, where she unwittingly dates a man who turns out to be a horrific serial killer.
So disturbing.
She is surrounded by absolute horror, betrayal, and death, yet that darkness cannot extinguish her inherent light. She feels the pain, but her nature doesn't sour.
And her specific profession is deeply, beautifully symbolic. She is an LAPD forensic scientist.
It's perfect for her.
Right. While Lucifer and Amenadiel are fighting literal cosmic wars in the sky, Ella is hunched over a microscope in a basement lab. She is searching for the truth in hair fibers, in blood spatters, in the absolute tragedy and violence of the material world.
She finds the hidden truth in the mess of the physical universe.
Furthermore, the show reveals that she has been best friends with the angel of death, Azrael, since she was a little girl after surviving a terrible car crash. Ella just thought she was a ghost named Ray Ray.
Which is just wild.
This proves that Ella intuitively, on a soul level, understands that the physical world, even death itself, is just a temporary costume. She isn't afraid of death because she is Zoe, she is life.
It's a beautiful way to interpret her character.
I want to pause and ask the listener to think about their own life for a second. When you face a crisis, how do you process the world? Are you a Linda? Do you need to stare into the terrifying, world-shattering fire of reality, break it all down, and painfully integrate it through logic and therapy to understand your place in the universe?
Or you and Ella.
Right. Do you naturally find the light, the faith, and the truth in the smallest, grittiest details of everyday life, trusting your intuition? But let me challenge this concept of Ella, because if she is just naturally filled with light and goodness from day one, isn't her character just one-dimensional?
Well,
She's just a static beacon of hugs and sunshine. Why does the show put her through such a severe, devastating crisis of faith in season 3?
because a static beacon cannot achieve true gnosis. That crisis of faith is arguably her most crucial narrative arc.
Okay, walk us through that.
Ella starts the series as a devout, traditional Catholic. She goes to Mass, she wears a cross. Her faith is placed entirely externally in the traditional Catholic God who, in our Gnostic framework, represents the flawed demiurge.
He thinks God is pulling all the strings for good.
She believes there is a grand, perfect plan controlled by a distant Heavenly Father. But when tragedy strikes, when her friend Charlotte is senselessly murdered, that external framework completely shatters.
She realizes the game is flawed.
She looks at the violence of the world and realizes the architect isn't protecting them. She stops believing in the grand plan.
She gets genuinely angry. She starts wearing dark clothes. She takes off her cross. She avoids church. She feels abandoned.
But this isn't a fall from grace.
No.
In Gnosticism, this is a necessary evolution. She is moving away from faith. Faith, in this context, is believing what you are told by an external authority.
Right. Blind trust.
She is moving toward internal light, which is knowing what you feel to be true through experience.
Yeah.
She eventually emerges from this crisis without returning to her blind faith.
She figures it out herself.
She realizes that she is the source of the light. She doesn't need the demiurge to mandate goodness or fairness. Her very nature is Zoe. She embodies the light herself, and she has to project it into a dark world, rather than waiting for God to fix it.
Okay, so we have Lucifer the rebel spirit, Chloe the divine wisdom, Dan the everyman struggling with his pudding, and our guides, Linda and Ella.
A great cat.
But what about the wardens of this cosmic prison? The enforcers of the demiurge's laws? In traditional ancient texts, the archons are the bad guys, full stop.
Just absolute villains.
But in Lucifer, they do something that is essentially unprecedented in these old mythologies. They evolve.
They do, and it fundamentally challenges the pessimism of ancient Gnosticism. If we look at the Gospel of Philip, it explicitly states, this world is unreal, and the names that are here employed are deceptive. Man is under the sway of the archons, the hostile powers who seek to bind him.
Seeking to bind him.
In texts like the Gospel of Mary, the soul has to violently battle the powers of wrath to ascend. The archons are static, soulless functionaries. They are just gears in the demiurge's machine, entirely incapable of growth.
Enter Amenadiel and Mazikeen.
Yes.
Amenadiel is the Archon King. He is the logos of the law, the eldest, most powerful angel brother who shows up on Earth in Season 1 purely to enforce God's rules and physically drag Lucifer back to his post in hell.
He is incredibly rigid.
Rigid, arrogant, and entirely blind to human suffering. And Mazikeen, or Maze, is a literal demon forged in the fires of hell. She's an Archon who acts as the literal warden and head torturer. She doesn't have a soul.
Yet Maze experiences what we can only describe as a glitch in her demonic programming.
A very human glitch.
As she spends time trapped on Earth, interacting with humans, she begins to change. A critical turning point is her relationship with Chloe's young daughter, Trixie.
Trixie is amazing. She represents innocent gnosis.
She really does.
She looks at this terrifying, leather-clad, knife-wielding demon, and she doesn't see a monster, she just sees a friend.
Through this entirely pure, non-judgmental connection, Maze of being explicitly created by the demiurge without a soul actually develops one. The soulless enforcer learns deep, sacrificial empathy.
There is a specific Nor-themed episode that explains the lineage of this desire. We learn about Maze's mother, Lilith.
Yes, the backstory is crucial here.
The lore reveals that Lilith, the mother of demons, willingly gave up her immortality. She placed her eternal essence into a ring so she could experience the limitation, the pain, and the tragic beauty of a finite human life.
Which is profound.
Maze inherits this profound, almost inexplicable desire to humanize the divine. She stops wanting to be the queen of hell, torturing souls, and starts desperately searching for genuine, vulnerable connection on Earth.
And Amenadiel's arc is just as massive.
He goes through the ringer.
He loses his wings, he falls, he experiences racism and police brutality as a black man in America. He goes from being this unyielding enforcer of the demiurge's will to being of pure empathy, largely through his relationship with Linda and fathering a child.
The character growth is wild.
By the end of the entire series, he becomes the new demiurge. He takes over the throne of God. But he rules entirely differently. He rules with compassion and understanding that he specifically learned from living in the dirt with humans.
Think about the implications of that. It's like the ultimate prison break scenario. But instead of the prisoners just digging a tunnel and escaping, the guards suddenly realize they are also trapped in the Panopticon.
The Panopticon, exactly.
And instead of stopping the riot, the guards experience a glitch, rewrite their own programming, hand over the keys, and dismantle the prison from the inside.
It's beautiful.
But let me play the skeptic again. If a literal demon can spontaneously grow a human soul just by making friends with an 8-year-old girl, and if the ultimate rigid enforcer of cosmic law can become a benevolent, empathetic God, doesn't that completely destroy the whole concept of a divine, orderly hierarchy?
It absolutely destroys it, and that is the core message.
Okay, explain that.
The divine hierarchy is a deceptive illusion. Think about the demiurge's perfect realm, the pleroma, or heaven. It is pristine, it is harmonious, but it is entirely static. Nothing grows there because there is no conflict.
Just floating on clouds?
Exactly. The material world, despite being a messy, painful, violently unjust prison full of suffering, offers something that heaven physically cannot. Friction.
Friction.
Yes. Friction is the absolute prerequisite for genuine spiritual growth. You cannot sharpen a blade on a cloud. You need a stone.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
The Archon's Maze and Amenadiel evolve because the material world forces them to feel, to suffer, to lose, and to love. They outgrow the demiurge's hierarchy because the messy human experience is fundamentally more spiritually potent than sterile divine perfection.
Which sets the stage perfectly for the ultimate alchemy of the series. All of these individual journeys, God realizing he needs to retire, Dan letting go of his guilt and dropping the pudding, Maze growing a soul, Amenadiel learning empathy, they all culminate in Lucifer's final ultimate test.
The biggest hurdle.
The rebel spirit has to face the ultimate Gnostic threshold. Ego death.
This takes us to the spectacular climax of Season 5.
Let's set the scene.
Lucifer's twin brother Michael arrives. Michael represents the ultimate corruption of the Archonic law. He is manipulative, power-hungry, and uses fear to control everyone. During an epic battle, Michael kills Chloe. Chloe's soul leaves her body and goes up to heaven.
And that's a huge problem.
Yes, because Lucifer has been permanently banished from heaven by the demiurge. The cosmic law is that if he ever sets foot in the Silver City, he will instantaneously incinerate. He will cease to exist.
But he goes anyway.
Yet he flies into heaven anyway to save her.
He flies up there fully, 100% expecting to die. He bursts through the clouds, he finds her, and he takes Lilith's ring, the ring we mentioned earlier that holds the essence of immortality and life, and he places it on Chloe's hand so she can resurrect and return to Earth.
And as he does it, he starts burning away.
This act is so much more than a romantic television trope. In our Gnostic framework, this is the ultimate metaphysical rebellion.
Yes, it is.
For eons, Lucifer has been accused by his family, by humanity, and by himself of ultimate narcissism. He was the prideful son. And in Gnosticism, the ego, the obsession with the self, the belief in your own separation from the whole, is the primary obstacle to achieving gnosis.
So true.
By flying into heaven, entirely willing to be completely annihilated in order to save the divine spark housed in Chloe, Lucifer achieves the death of the old man. He sheds his ego completely.
It's the ultimate Gnostic exchange. Let's break down the mechanics of that.
Okay, let's do it.
Down here in the material world, it's a zero-sum game. If you want something, you have to take it from someone else.
Right.
But in the true divine realm, everything is shared. He gives up his immortality entirely for her. He gives everything and expects nothing in return.
But here is the million-dollar question, the moment that makes or breaks the theology of the show. Why didn't he permanently burn up? He survived. Did God just decide from the pleroma to forgive him at the last second and change the rules?
No, and that is the absolute genius of the narrative. The demiurge didn't intervene.
So what happened?
Lucifer survived because by sacrificing himself so completely, he fundamentally rewrote his own nature. The law of banishment, the code that dictated he would burn, only applied to the old Lucifer.
Ah, I see.
It applied to the narcissist, the rebel, the ego-driven devil. The new Lucifer, the completely selfless savior who achieved gnosis, bypassed the demiurge's law entirely through internal truth. He didn't break the law. He outgrew the universe where the law applied.
And when Chloe resurrects back on Earth, possessing superhuman strength from the ring, she easily defeats Michael. When they are standing there together, the rebel and wisdom, they represent what is called the Gnostic syzygy.
Syzygy is a complex psychological and cosmic concept.
It sounds complex.
But essentially it means the perfect balanced union of opposites. When Chloe, representing divine wisdom and grounded humanity, and Lucifer, representing spirit and celestial power, act in total selfless concert, they achieve syzygy. They act as a singular, unstoppable divine force that can rewrite reality.
Which leads directly into the series finale. Lucifer has won. The angels bow to him. He is poised to literally become God. She won the war he started at the dawn of time.
But he realizes something profound.
He doesn't want the job. He doesn't want to be the architect sitting on a throne. Instead, he willingly returns to hell. But not as its warden. Not as the guy pulling the levers on the torture machines.
Not at all.
He becomes the grand psychopomp. He sets up an office in the underworld, modeled exactly after Dr. Linda's therapy office in Los Angeles, and he starts sitting down with the damned souls, pulling them out of their self-imposed guilt loops one by one.
He literally turns the ultimate torture chamber of the universe into a cosmic rehab facility.
It's incredible. But wait, I have to ask the ultimate philosophical question here.
Lay it on me.
If the end goal of all of this, of God retiring, of Lucifer rebelling, of Chloe's wisdom, of Dan's suffering, if the end goal is just to heal everyone in hell so they can eventually leave and go to heaven, what was the point of the universe's creation in the first place?
That's the big one.
Why build the painful rigged maze of Earth if the ultimate goal is just to get everyone out?
Well, if we synthesize the entire journey, a staggering conclusion emerges. The demiurge God created the material universe, not as a playground for his amusement, and not as a punishment for sin.
But as what?
He created it as an incubator. The grand prank of existence wasn't played on humanity. It was played by God on Lucifer.
Oh, wow.
God cast Lucifer out of heaven and into hell, not to punish him for eternity, but to train him. He forced the pure spirit to descend into the absolute darkest depths of the material world.
To teach him.
He did this so that through eons of struggle, friction, betrayal, and eventually profound love, Lucifer would learn genuine empathy.
Yeah.
She descended so that he could eventually become the ultimate healer and bring every single lost soul back up to the light. The maze exists solely to teach the mouse how to build doors.
Wow. Okay, let's wrap this up. We started this deep dive looking at a seemingly lighthearted network television show about a crime-solving devil in a tailored suit driving around Los Angeles.
It seems so simple on the surface.
But looking closely, examining the mechanics of the story, It is genuinely a masterclass in ancient theology and Jungian psychology.
It really is.
From Chloe embodying divine wisdom capable of hacking a rig system, to Dan's painfully relatable struggle with the material pudding of everyday distractions. From Linda staring into the terrifying baptism of fire to heal the gods, to Lucifer's ultimate ego death and sacrifice. The entire story is a roadmap for the soul's liberation from guilt and the illusion of the material world.
Beautifully summarized.
And I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over. We've talked a lot about the characters, but we only briefly touched on Lucifer's daughter from the future, Rory.
Aw.
She arrives in the final season carrying immense destructive anger because she felt abandoned by her father. But think about the mechanics of this time loop. If Lucifer had to abandon her on Earth so he could go heal all the billions of lost souls in hell, and her ensuing time-traveling anger is the exact catalyst that ultimately forces him to realize his destiny as that healer, does that mean our deepest traumas and our greatest angers aren't just frustrating obstacles to our enlightenment?
That's a huge question.
What if they are the very architectural blueprints required to build our salvation? Next time you feel trapped in your own personal hell loop, staring at your own mistakes at 3:00 a.m., ask yourself, are you the prisoner or are you just the healer in training?
A profound question to carry forward.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the characters and the cosmos. Keep questioning the reality around you, keep looking for your own internal spark, and we'll catch you next time.